Welcome back, everybody. We are big noises, big loud noises. You guys know what it is. Maxed Out Lax podcast coming back with what was just another absolutely insane week of lacrosse. Maxwell, how we doing, buddy?
I'm good. I am good. I've been enjoying my first week of O'Dowd spring break. They like to group their ski week and spring break together, week before, week after Easter. So week off of driving over to the East Bay for me. Absolutely miss it. I love those kids. It has been more than worth it. But I won't complain about not having to drive that extra 30 minutes for a week.
Absolutely get it. I absolutely get it. We had to cancel practice last night because of the rain, and we're 30 years behind the Bay Area, and there's like one turf field used in this entire county, I swear it. So we had to rain it out, and I was like, well, I wish we could be practicing, but the night before I had 6 kids, 4 of which were long poles. So for me, it was like, well, if I'm not going to get the kids out there, I don't mind having a little time away.
Yeah, it sounds like you might have needed the time away. Sounds like your team may have needed it.
Well, and giving credit where credit is due, we've been running, I think our biggest game we had 14 kids. So it's like take a break. I'm not going to get anything out of you guys going 50% at practice anyways if you need to take a... But it's been so bad at practice, I haven't even been able to put a ride clear in. Like, we've just been schoolyarding it because you can't practice that with 6 kids. You just can't.
So we can touch that's how it is with like my U14s with our Santa Fe Blue Jays U14s. We're getting 6 to 10 kids at a practice. And we have great athletes. We just have a lot of new kids, and we need. Unfortunately, what they need the most is stick skills, and obviously you can do that with very few kids and stuff, but when you do stick skills all practice, these kids all of a sudden think that's all the stick skills they need to do. Yeah. They don't need to go spend an extra, literally just 10 to 20 minutes a day. That's all it takes. They all scroll that on Instagram. I scroll that on Instagram myself, So it is very easy, and it is very easy. It should be very easy. But it's very frustrating, because, we haven't been able to put in a man-up play. We haven't been able to put in a ride or clear. And even just going over the offense and stuff, it's been very limited in what we're able to do with that because, like you said, U14s, I get it. It's a little more accepted. These kids are playing basketball, they're playing soccer, they might be playing baseball. If you're in high school, though, it's becomes more of you're choosing to play this sport, and option stops or attendance stops becoming an option and is becoming mandatory.
Yeah, and that's
humble opinion.
Well, that's kind of the issue with where I'm at right now is we are a club team.
Sure.
We're not related to the high school.
Right.
So like I got a guy that's running in the state track qualifiers and stuff. But he wanted to play lacrosse, see what it's about, and he's really good at lacrosse. I think he's, we've played 4 or 5 games. He's scored probably 8 points, give or take. Like he's averaging 1.5 to 2 points a game, and next year he's probably going to have to make a decision on whether he wants to run track or play lacrosse, and it's going to suck.
Yeah, that's going to be very hard for him. I mean, I remember making that decision and stuff, but
yeah,
it's unfortunate.
It's part of growing up, and it's part of figuring out what you want to do with your life. Running's not a sport; it's a way to keep yourself alive if there's an animal chasing you. But it's hard, but it's understandable. Looking towards the future, I'm hoping I don't have to deal with this much anymore because kind of ridiculous. I've been in such the mindset for the past damn near 2 decades that it's, hey, spring break doesn't exist. you're playing a spring sport, we're going to practice. We're going to do stuff. If your family's going out of town and you have to miss, okay, I understand.
You're just not bought in.
Well, but as long as you're communicating with me, right?
Sure.
Because that's my biggest thing, like, have a life, do things, enjoy what you're living.
Yeah.
But tell me.
I agree. Yeah.
Inform me. Let me know what's going on.
Yeah.
Like, it's one of those things with coaching that never really goes away and will always be frustrating.
It's never going to go away, and yeah, it's going to stay infuriating for the rest of the time.
Yeah. But luckily enough, I'm pretty sure that, moving forward, it becoming a high school sport here, things like that, it's going to create more buy-in. And realistically, it's kind of what it's about when you look at it. Like, it is my job to create the buy-in as a coach.
Yeah.
I have to make practices enough fun that they want to be there instead of being in some other place.
Yeah.
And
that's a good point as well.
For me, that takes time. When I was coaching in Pennsylvania, when I started, we were getting 6 to 8 people at off-season workouts. When I left this winter, they were having routinely 16 to 22. Like, that's what
awesome.
It does. It's growing, and it's pushing that out and making sure that they're enjoying it and learning, and they see that team now. Shout out Cedar Crest High. They're 2-0. They've put up some big efforts. They've been kicking some butt going through their out of conference schedule. 2 teams that we played very close games with last year. They decided that they were going to go raffle stomp them. So it was fun to see. I still have access to their huddle, so I'm watching all their games because I'm a goober like that and have the energy and time to
nothing else to
do some more film work. Hey, it just keeps me sharp.
Right.
Yeah, squarely. Goals for polls. That was something I tried to teach that team very much. Was, no, you're not a defender. If you pick the ball up and are pushing transition, play transition.
Yeah, it's something that I've really started to work to install. This last week with Ed O'Dowd, we started to talk about that early offense stuff a lot more. We have a couple horses, dude, that can create a freaking fast break whenever they want to. Our LSM is an absolute stud. The man is a beast. Arguably some of the best stick skills on my team. Funny how that works out with LSMs every once in a while. Shout out Easy E.
Yeah,
OG
buddy.
Great. Legend.
The vacuum himself.
Seriously, the vacuum, the stick skills, man, that kid was, if only, he was in the, whatever.
Probably the best LSM I've ever had the opportunity to play with. Trying to think back through it, like, easy was everything you wanted.
You had Noah for a year?
I coached Gibson Noah. He never played with me.
Well, yeah. And I think about someone like Noah, who's an All-American right now in the MCLA. He is one of the most insane athletes I've ever met in my life. Yeah. He can do nothing all winter and walk in and squat 450 like it's nothing. He's one of those kids where he's just blessed.
Yeah, that's why I helped recruit him.
Absolutely. But I'll be honest, like, his IQ always isn't. Sometimes he makes a bad decision, and I'm thinking about Eric, and just like every part of his game was on the money. Like, he always made the right pass. He always pushed it when he should have. He always, tried to go to goal like whenever was the right opportunity, and if he needed to pull it out and we need to not do anything stupid, then that's what he was doing.
Well, and I think the biggest difference is while Eric was athletic, he wasn't a freak of nature athletically.
Yes, that's. Mm-hmm.
But what made him so good was he knew how to use his athleticism and when to use his brain and when to outthink his opponent. Because he was a very cerebral type of LSM where Noah is an athlete of athletes, and he's going to get the ball on the ground, pick the ball up, and go the other way. That is what's running through Noah's mind at all times.
Yes. 100%.
And I love that about him. Like, I'm not trying.
It's not a bad thing,
I'm not trying to say that in a slight in any manner of the word. It's such a good attitude to have for that defensive system that it works.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It made me think that into something that we wanted to probably touch on later, but I thought for whatever reason after I sent you the Team of the Week post last night, I thought Pisano hadn't made it. That was going to be another gripe that we had with that, but I double checked that he's on there.
He better be on every list.
I mean, they got smacked by UVA the other day, but like he was still player of the game in that game. Like he had 4 caused turnovers against UVA, and they lost 16-10. Well, not to mention his 2 goals came in the 4th quarter, like to make it look a little closer than the game actually may have been.
And here's the thing about Jake Pisano: he wasn't guarding the midfield.
No, he was guarding Connor Schellenberger half the time.
His 4 turnovers were, I think 2 of them at least were against Schellenberger.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I mean, there was the one at the end where he went over the head and then went down and scored.
That makes me so angry as a coach, though, because yes, Jake Pisano can pull that off. And I'm not the kind of coach who is totally against over the head checks.
But little Joe Schmo or 2 of my tower defensemen who are both 6'3" and 6'4", but have only been playing for 2 years. I don't need you seeing that and thinking you can do that.
No, and there's a time and a place for the overhead check.
Yeah.
And bless Cole Ramsey's heart, I don't know if I ever got this through to him. When they're driving upfield in the alley, that is the worst time to go for an over-the-head check.
If you miss, topside is naked.
Topside is theirs. Like, they get it. If you're going for that check, we better have already called the slide anyways.
Yeah.
Like,
that slide better be coming from the top, too, because if it's coming back hip, expecting you to roll him back, and you go for the over-the-head, that's even more topside.
Even if it's coming from the crease, we need that top guy pinching down hardcore. Like,
from the wing, yeah.
Like,
got to get a little offensive movement, clear that wing out, though. Coach, come on now. Who knows that defenseman's there?
You do, but what I'm saying is it doesn't matter what the offense does. Make them make the pass.
Touche.
And I don't care who you are, even if you're Connor Schellenberger. If I've got 3 poles converging on you, if I don't take that ball away, I'm not mad at the play being made. I am entirely mad at the fact that you 3 couldn't control one player long enough to take the ball away from him.
Yes. That is precisely the point there. Yeah.
But I mean, it's one of those things where I love seeing that the over-the-head check and the takeaway checks are coming back, because for a lot of years, nobody was using them because, well, the heads had gotten so good, the stringing and blah, 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 why even try?
And not only that, too, but I almost feel like everyone was watching a different place. There was a big emphasis, from when I was leaving high school, like middle of my high school era, so like 15, 16-ish, up until, I'd say like COVID kind of throws a wrench into all of these things, but around 15, 16 and on, the Thompson brothers were the epitome of lacrosse, right? And they were all about stick possession, stick skills, and almost baiting a defender to go into a check like that and taking it away from them, like teasing them a little bit and stuff. So I feel like defenders had to go away from it, because to play against someone like Lyle, you have to play body and you have to stay in the perfect positioning, because he's going to get a shot off it doesn't matter if you're in perfect positioning, he's still going to get a goddamn good shot off, you know? So I feel like the kind of way the offenses were playing was kind of leaning away from allowing defenders to do that. But now that offense, I think there's been this big jump in offense last year. All of our top players lately have been offense. They might start to get a little cocky. And you see someone like Schellenberger who's leaning in hard, but he's hanging his stick pretty aggressively in that clip, And so I think you might just start to see some of these more athletic defenders like Bassano, even Zappatello, start to take advantage of things like that, maybe a little bit more.
Well, in a defense, I'm sure we will spend plenty of time talking about that. You see it a lot happening is Syracuse.
Yeah.
Right? Guys like Billy Dwan, guys, like sure. Matt Wright. Those guys, they aren't scared to go over the head, make a hard check, and bigger than anything, the other 5 guys are okay with them trying to make that check and have his back should that check not work. Because I think that's the major thing. If you are going to allow people to throw those checks and get a little wild, your off-ball defense has to be there. If it's not, you're done. Right? If you're throwing wild checks and playing a one-on-one defense where if he beats you, we're slow to go, sorry, bud, we're cooked. But if you're playing that quick slide, aggressive help defense, throw those checks. Make those things happen.
That was aggressive.
Apologies. You're good. It actually muted it.
Yeah, I muted it myself, luckily.
Stop taking to forget your pills. Forgetting to take your pills. English. Words are hard. Shout out Evan and Caitlin. Words are hard. They have a shirt that says that. I'm about it. So
good times.
I noticed something today that I just wanted to touch on very quickly. How cool is it to see the fact that Liberty and Chapman is on the little scroll bar on ESPN Plus with all the other D1 games? For a kid that played, grew up, loves the MCLA, that is so cool to see.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It's been awesome. Liberty has had a couple games over the last handful of years, streamed on there. They have, they have a good deal going. They have a very good production department and stuff. So it's been great to see, over the last handful of years, every once in a while they get a nice little game on there. It's awesome.
They've had 3 or 4 this year. I know their South Carolina game was streamed. Their Chapman game was streamed. I think their Va Tech game was streamed. It's just
they've
cool.
had some in the last couple of years too.
Yeah, I know they did. They love doing their Midnight Mayhem game televised and stuff, which is super cool. But it is kind of what it is. I just love seeing the MCLA being put out there in the same breath as NCAA lacrosse, because say what you will about clubs, say what you will about all that stuff, but it is another way for kids who want to play college lacrosse to go play college lacrosse. And honestly, the severity and the intenseness of that is such a bigger spectrum in MCLA than it is in NCAA that it's a good option for people.
Yeah, for a ton of people.
Yeah. Hey, I want to go to this big school and be able to go to the football games every Saturday, but I still want to be able to play lacrosse. Hey, cool. Go to TCU, go to Texas, go to University of Tennessee, go to, Stanford, go to USC, go to any number of these teams that have giant football programs. You'll get the frat life that you love, but you're still able to play lacrosse.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of the day, that's really all I care about. If you want to go play lacrosse, let's find you a way, and I will help anybody with that anywhere, anytime. There's got to be a way, and this sport is small enough that if I don't know somebody, I guarantee I got 6 degrees of separation from somebody else.
We're knowing someone that knows someone for sure.
Yeah, right? Like, it doesn't matter where. Like, I need somebody in this region. I probably know somebody, and if I don't, I know somebody who knows a guy from that area who can hook me up with somebody who, and It's the greatest and the worst thing about this game. Because it is a double-edged sword. You get a bad reputation and it'll follow you, but if you have a good reputation, it'll open doors no matter where you want to go.
Yeah. All right. Yeah.
Getting into kind of my first topic of the week, you need to go ahead and pick yourself a NLL team, and watch these last 4 weeks. So we've got 4 weeks to playoffs. And have you heard about how the NLL is doing playoffs this year?
Give me a refresher, because I believe I did, but I can't give it to you off.
They changed it up. They used to have the East-West, right? And they'd take 4 teams from each division.
Sure.
Well, this year, for the first time, they said, forget all that. We're taking the best 8 teams. Everybody's playing everybody. We're gonna best 8 teams make the playoff.
Like that in a league of this size, I think that's a good call.
Yeah, I totally agree, and it is made for some really fun lacrosse. So
yeah, I bet.
With 4 weeks left,
I'm grabbing a tissue.
You're good. The top 3 teams, 2 of which have clinched. That's Toronto and San Diego.
Sounded like you said clenched, not clinched.
Clinched. Yeah. Word. So the rest of
in that playoff spot.
The rest of the teams, right? So this is from 3rd to
8th.
We're going to go down to the top 10. So from 3 to 10, you've got 10 and 5, 9 and 7, 8 and 7, 7 and 7, 7 and 7, 7 and 8, 6 and 7, 6 and 8. And then 11 is at 5 and 8, and 12 is 5 and 9.
For those 2 teams who are on the cusp of totally not making it, because they're even still close.
Yeah. So outside looking in right now, you've got Rochester at 9, Calgary at 10, Philly at 11, and Saskatchewan at 12. Which leads me into this weekend of lacrosse for the NLL. All of these games should be on either TSN Plus, if any Canadians have decided to stop in, or ESPN Plus. And so the first game, you've got Saskatchewan and Philly tomorrow night in Philadelphia. This one sets the tempo, because these are 11 and 12. They're both at 5 and 8. Right? So this is as close to a playoff game as you can have 4 weeks away from the playoffs starting.
Absolutely.
Then Saturday night, you've got Buffalo, who's 7 and 7, going to Philly, who could possibly be 6 and 8 going, and would then, if they could beat both Saskatchewan and Buffalo, would then be tied with Buffalo at 7 and 8. Then you have Halifax, who is the 5th seed as of right now, against the 11th or the 9th seed Rochester Nighthawks. And to give you some star power to go along with this, everyone knows the Buffalo Bandits, guys. Chase Frazier, Dane Smith, Chris Cloutier, Josh Burr. They're all big field guys. Philadelphia has the likes of Blaze Reardon, Mitch Jones. I think Joe Resiteris is still playing for them, but don't quote me on that. The Nighthawks have a guy by the name of Connor Fields. Y'all may have heard of him once or twice. He's been around for a minute. But Thomas McConvey of UVA is also on that team. But Halifax, you've got Randy Stotts. You've got Cody Jameson for you old heads. You've got a bunch. So, these all have guys, I guarantee everyone who listens to this podcast has heard it. It's just a different version of the game. Watch and support. Pick your favorites. But heading down the home stretch,
really
heading down your home stretch here, like, you're not going to find more intense lacrosse out there right now. Like, the way this playoff seeding has set up what this season has become is absolutely awesome.
And it's because exactly what we're doing, it's kind of done exactly what they wanted it to do.
Yeah.
We're talking about it more. It seems like it's creating more competition. These last 4 teams who are out, like, they're still pretty close at getting that 7-8 seed. So they're still trying to win games and stuff. They're not stuck way behind the 4th seed in their own region, right? Yeah. I like it. I like it a lot.
So the Las Vegas Desert Dogs are sitting at 4-10 right now. They aren't eliminated.
That's crazy. How many games left you said we have?
So I can't tell you games because games is different for each team, but there's 4 weekends of play left.
Okay. Fair.
Right? So if you look at it, like, who has played the least amount of games? 14, 13. So Philly and Saskatchewan have both played 13 games.
And then everyone else is around 14, maybe a 15 here and there.
Yeah, and then you've got 1, 2, 3 teams that have played 15 games.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit all over the place, but like...
Hey. Sorry, I interrupt our normally scheduled procedure to mention Boston has tied Duke 9-9. There's a minute left in the third quarter, ladies and gentlemen.
Let's go, BU. I need that loss to look better.
You need that loss to look better. I just want Duke to lose.
That's always icing on the cake. Although I love Dyson Williams, so I hope. Yeah, he's got the hat trick. He's good.
That's what he'll do.
Dyson Williams has done his job. He is
what he do. BU with only 16 shots on goal. That was a hell of a handle at the end of the shot clock.
More breaking news. Dyson Williams got an assist. I think that's amazing.
That is actual breaking news. BU now just got a shot. Shout out for whatever reason me getting ACC Network Extra right now, but
I'm just
upgraded the Xfinity package, but
hey,
don't make me start streaming my screen onto the
color commentary. This is gonna become a watch along stream real quick.
Dude, if only we wouldn't get the fucking fisticuffs so fast. I do need to put I need a screen behind me so I'm trying to duel this, but it's a little annoying. All right. NLL. Let's keep talking.
Oh, yeah. So I think my big point was, if you're not following it right now,
get on it.
It'd be a good time to step up to that. Because
you're taking shots directly at me, and I think everyone in chat needs to know that.
I'm not taking shots directly at you. Chuck's in there too, and I'll take shots at Chuck.
Chuck's all about the girls' game, baby.
Hey,
shout out! Hey, Izzy Skane coming for Charlotte North.
That's a fact.
28 goals shy. I believe Charlotte North is at 378. If someone wants to fact check me, and Izzy Skane's at 350 after this weekend.
I mean, but did you hear what Charlotte North said about Izzy?
She loves her.
Yeah, no, she was like, she is such a matchup problem. She's not fair. And whoever she was...
size? She's big.
Oh, yeah, she's a...
Oh, my God, and she can move, man.
She's what I need more... She's the Peyton Cormier of the girls' game. She uses her size well. She's got the stick protection and and the only reason she's a little bit better at it is because of the rule differentials, I feel, and the fact that most men's defensemen are 6'4", 240 in the ACC at the lowest.
Pretty boy lacrosse.
Just some pretty boy lax. Let's forget about all the Canadians and Giants that we have. Big Ten money.
Whatever.
Big Ten
Especially
money
all of the people who lately, Virginia, I mean, there's been a couple others, but Virginia's been getting blessed in the that grad transfer portal and stuff. And those grad transfers in their 5th year aren't going to be wanting to play no pretty boy lax.
I think Duke has been blessed more than most with Josh Lada.
Mm-hmm.
That's just not fair.
Yeah. Touche. So great segment from us right there. Let's start talking about the midway point. We're about a month transition. Out. I know, right? A little over a month out from the start of our conference tournaments. I remember the Ivy League is the 3rd and the 5th. I'm sure all the other ones are just about the same.
They're it's typically a 2-week period of conference tournaments, and you started with that one, so we'll just go ahead and start right there. But I can't wait.
Not a bad place to start.
I can't wait for the Ivy tournament.
Which team do you want to start talking about?
So, I think it's only fair to start talking about the hottest team, in my opinion, and that's Cornell. Because you look at Cornell, and they played Harvard and Yale, and went 2-0.
Mm-hmm.
Or Princeton and Yale. I was right the first time. I need to stop second-guessing myself. But they went 2-0 over Princeton and Yale, and I think that is a hell of a start for them coming into the Ivy League play. You've got 2 big wins right off the bat. This week you're coming into Penn.
Who is currently also 2-0 in Ivy League play right now, even though they've had the weirdest up and down year at times. But they're 2-0 in Ivy League play.
Yeah,
so
absolutely. And it's one of those things where, like, Cornell has been battle-tested this year already.
Their 2 losses are very respectable. And the teams they lost to are respectable.
They are. That Penn State game
just is so confusing.
That's one of those, hey, it was a blip. You're going to have bad games. You're going to not be totally connected. You're going to be disconnected. Your defense is going to struggle. They may,
and especially if you look at their schedule, the only 2 cupcake games I would give them, they put Lehigh, which is cupcake-esque, and then Hobart. Every other game has been against someone who at some point this year is ranked.
Yeah, and even Hobart, they've played a decently tough schedule, and they've beaten who they were supposed to beat and lost who they were supposed to lose to.
As is Lehigh, and that was first game of the year. That's always a different team than what you would see later in the year.
Yeah. Well, and you think about the fact that Cornell was building in basically their entire starting midfield line. Offensively speaking, they are all younger players. I know Will Firth is a freshman who is playing up at the midfield to start. I think Kelleher is kind of their biggest returning midfielder, but I could be wrong. I just love what they're doing. I think you're going to learn a lot in the next week, 5 days, because they've got Penn on Saturday. Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday, and
yeah.
But then they have Syracuse on a Tuesday.
Real quick.
So how is Connor Busick going to be able to turn that around and really, get his guys focused back-to-back big games? Do they focus more on the Ivy League game because, a midweek loss to Syracuse at this point doesn't really hurt them?
It's not an awful loss. And I definitely want to touch on that Syracuse team because they have arguably a bigger turnaround ahead of that game. They played Notre Dame on Saturday.
Yeah.
But we'll stay in the Ivy League for now.
But yeah, we're gonna get to the ACC, and that's gonna be
But exactly, it's gonna be a story. But Syracuse is the 3rd ranked team. if they lose to Notre Dame, whatever, they're still, and then a loss to Syracuse, exactly. Like that doesn't look awful, especially if it isn't like the loss to Penn State. If it's a real game, that's a normal loss. Someone has to lose that game, and that's unfortunate.
Yeah. But sticking in the Ivy and kind of moving down that big Ivy list of fun teams, let's talk about Yale. Because I think Yale...
Number 11th in the nation?
I mean, did you watch any of their game last night?
Mm-mm.
For the amount of crap Syracuse gets for, playing soft teams and running up their stats against, lesser competition.
Yeah.
Yale did a really good job, in my opinion, in their 21-10 win over Lemoyne of just absolutely emptying the benches.
Yeah.
The second that lead went up to where they were like, yeah, we're good, Brandow came back, and all these guys that play minutes, and they were running first second-year guys getting them experience. And
yeah,
I just,
you have to.
I love seeing stuff like that. And I think Andy Shea is an absolutely great coach that doesn't get enough credit for how good he is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Quick update. Boston about to go man up. 10-10 left in the fourth. Still tied at 9.
So fun fact on that. So I am scoreboard watching the Duke live stats.
I'm video watching the live stream.
Yeah, it just says Jake Caputo yellow card. And I'm I'm
playing girls lax now.
Right?
Where if that was the highlight of the flag, wow. If that was the flag that they just called, maybe he was offsides. Oh, I think he was offsides. Maybe it was a 30-second.
Yeah.
Yep. Wow. Number 12 in Boston has been in the mud today. Give it to me. Oh, big save.
Is that the save by Patty Jamieson? Yeah. He is.
They're trying to clear right now. They got the clear. Once this gets close, we'll go to a quick. I'll play by play for everyone when we get around 2 minutes left in this
final
game,
couple of minutes.
Yeah. we'll take an intermission.
Keep watching the stream for now.
It's up. Don't worry.
I know it. But the big thing for me about Yale is, again, we're talking about a team with 2 losses, but they're 2 very good losses. They've got a 1-goal loss to Penn State, and then they've got a 3-goal loss to Cornell. That's not terrible when you're talking about wins over Denver, Harvard, Colgate, and Villanova. They've got
absolutely
what's probably the biggest bye week for the Ivy League this year. They travel to Brown this weekend. Sorry, Larkin Kemp, but I'm right. So it's one of those things where it's
Duke scored.
Yeah, I know. I'm ahead of you in my live stats.
That makes sense. So I didn't see it. I saw them celebrating. So I think we're kind of close.
Yeah.
I just wasn't looking.
Oh, no. I already know what happens for the next face-off. Brennan O'Neill secures the hat trick. 36th goal on the season. Continuing...
That was just a Brennan O'Neill goal, too. That was stupid.
Continuing down... Princeton.
Yale. Yep. I like it.
So Princeton is another.
Man.
It's another. It's another one of those teams where all their losses make sense.
Mm-hmm.
And they've won the games they were supposed to win, and then they beat North Carolina, who I think they were supposed to beat, but. It's still,
that one's kind of on the exactly. It was a real game. That was either way.
And then they picked up a win against Harvard. But they have losses to Cornell, Duke, and Maryland. I don't think any of those losses hurt them. And honestly, I think, their next 3 weeks is their chance to get on a big roll heading into the last 2 weeks of Ivy League play before the tournament. They've got Dartmouth, Lehigh, and then at Brown.
Yeah, they really need to come away 3-0 there. if they want to continuously, be in a conversation and whatnot. Like, that has to be a 3-0 stretch for them, especially leading into Ivy League play. That's huge, Mo. That's huge.
Yeah. And then
leading into more serious Ivy League play.
Well,
I guess, they've had some already.
You finish out with Penn and Yale.
Big turnover. Let's go.
So those are going to be big teams that are really pushing to, at that point, get seeding. Right? Mm-hmm. Right now, Penn's 2-0, Yale's 1-1. But that leads us to a team in Harvard. And I think this team, like, they started off 6-0, and then they've lost their first 2 Ivy League games. They lost 17-15 to Yale and 11-14 to Princeton. But they do have a big win over Michigan.
Unfortunately, their next game is against who we kind of agree on is the number 1 team in the nation.
Absolutely.
It's a tough, they go Virginia, then they get a little bit of a bounce back against Dartmouth, but that's never going to be totally easy. It's an in-season. BU ties it at 10, baby. Let's go. And then they finish out Penn, Cornell, and Brown. They realistically can't. If they lose to Virginia, that's fine, non-conference. But then they need to kind of win out in those last 4 Ivy League games because they've already started 0-2. They can't afford another loss. They'll still probably make the tournament, but it doesn't set them well up. Like, they're going to have to go on the road then in the tournament and play someone who they struggled against already.
Well, the thing for me, how many teams make the Ivy tournament?
It's got to be 4.
I think it is. I'm trying to look it up real quick.
Well, I think they could slide in at that 4th spot, no?
I don't know. Oh. I don't know if they would. They're already 0-2, right?
Yeah.
So they would need Princeton or Yale to at least lose 2 more games because they'd have the tiebreaker over them.
Yep.
Harvard is very much on the outside looking in, needing some help right now and needing to win the rest of their Ivy League games.
That's a very good point.
Because they've got Dartmouth, Penn, Cornell, and Brown left.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard for me to see a team below 4-2 making the Ivy tournament this year. Unless some shenanigans go on. Which in the Ivy is absolutely possible.
And looking at the next team, I would say Penn, they're 2-0 right now, but there's a chance they lose their next 4. They have all Ivy League games left. They go Cornell, Yale, Harvard, Princeton.
But
there's a chance they end 2-4, and then they're very much not in that. In the Ivy League tournament.
That's 100% a possibility, but I will say they've got a week in between each of those games.
Yeah, they have a little more time.
You're seeing a lot of these Ivy teams having at least one midweek game in the middle of your season, and that's going to be, the war of attrition in college lacrosse is always something a little bit extra.
Yeah, they get, having only 4 games remaining compared to some of these other teams with 5 or 6. That's an extra handful of games in there. That's tiring. That's taxing.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's something to watch out for. Is Penn going to be the best rested team?
Mm-hmm.
And then,
they might be.
Sorry, Brown and Dartmouth, but y'all don't deserve it.
Unfortunately. Brown hasn't been the same since Dylan Malloy. Fucking goat. Play through the goddamn tournament with a broken foot, you animal.
Yeah, that's almost as cool as Matt Russell breaking his collarbone in a national championship game and then playing through it.
Or Kavanaugh making an external hamstring and winning the natty.
Yeah, That one was.
There's that.
There's that. So that kind of takes us to the ACC. The ACC right now has 4 teams in the top 5.
Ridiculous. Oh my lord.
And they're 5th. Oh damn. Oh, I didn't realize
North
that.
Carolina's not in the top 20.
North Carolina dropped. Wow.
Yeah.
That makes the UNC game against Army that much more important for us to win.
I mean, they lost. It's the high point loss.
Yeah, and we can talk about that while talking about UNC real quick. The balls to make that play. Like, he was walking around like Stan Marsh in South Park, just wheelbarrows, to throw a BTB to the inside to a spinning, like, flip shot.
And on top of that, it wasn't a BTB from pushing GLE where you normally see it. It was a BTB from carrying up top a foot or two inside the restrainer.
Yeah, he was sweeping the top of the formation, throws the BTB inside. Like, what? I heard an interview.
That's wild.
I don't know if you listened to the tailgate at all, but I heard an interview with Nick Acello and Terry Foy with Brendan Maia, the guy who was sweeping, who threw that pass.
Mm-hmm.
And Brendan Maia and the PR team at High Point need a major high five, thumbs up. You've done a fantastic job.
You got some media training ahead of this?
Oh, absolutely, because he was very good.
I love that. That's awesome.
It was, and this may just be the type of person he is, but it was all.
Sorry. You're over on the ride. They're pushing numbers. Kind of. Settle it down. Be smart. Oh my god. That was a terrible shot. That was crazy.
Timeout too.
They picked it off. BU attackman picked it off at the midline, pushed it in. Keeper I'm blanking on his name, got back in cage, and the dude stepped in from like 10 and 10 lefty. He made the save. Pull picked up the rebound and a backhand shot, and it went just wide. Boston's ball at X.
Hey, we'll take it. We'll take it. I missed who followed, but thanks for following us.
Hey, shout out.
We love it. We love it. I will try to figure it out and give you proper shout outs. But yeah, the ACC, that High Point UNC finish was just, it was so fun. And that's just what lacrosse is. And this is where I was going with that. It was Chuck.
Coach Charlie.
What up,
yes,
Chucker?
Sir. Florida.
But Brendan Maia was telling the story. He's like, yeah, Coach drew up this play. And then I saw Sawyer give me that look. And it was, I knew I just had to throw the pass.
Yeah.
And like, that kind of connection with a teammate is just always so much fun to hear about. You know, just, he gave me that look. I knew it. Like, I knew right then and there, unless I was wide open, I'm throwing that pass somehow into him and he's going to catch it and finish it. And that's exactly what happened.
Yeah. But kind of touching on what you said real quick, it's so great playing with someone like that, you know. I think back to my high school days. Shout out Wes Yost. Dude, talk about the shiftiest player I have ever played with in my life. Coach Max knows him.
He's calling you out, Chuck. He's not wrong, but
unfortunately, this kid could beat anyone on the field, and then I would just reaped all the benefits on the crease.
Yep.
I think of a couple of kids in college too. That was a bad shot, and Duke's gonna get the chase. Shout out Peaches. I knew if he was open and he gave me a look, I could throw it to him. And also a boy still on the team, Kenny Seiler, balling out in his junior year, just hit 100 points. A couple more games to go this year, and that kid could have a big year next year.
You worried?
I've loved holding this record.
Starting to feel
worried
it?
isn't the right word. Excited, like I want another one. Like, come on, give it to me. Let's get some more kids like that through the school and stuff.
Well, and
I'd be happy to hold on to the record for a little while longer, of course. But Kenny is a fucking baller and such a good kid. I would be more than honored to have him snap that.
Yeah, we had so many records broken in very quick succession at Dominican while we were there.
That was a corner from Duke.
Yeah. Duke scored for you in the chat. It's 11-10 with 2:12 left. Come on, BU. Come on. Can't go.
And you mentioned, though, we had a lot of records broken recently. Fairly short history of Dominican lacrosse. And as well, a lot of weird years in between there when we were switching in very small rosters. So now that we're D2 again, I think it'll only grow. Again, I would hate to fall farther down that list, but it would be pretty cool.
I need somebody to figure it out. Just stop the ball, goalies. It's all you got to do. It's stop 2 balls for every 1 ball you let go past you. You're good to go.
66%.
I mean, that was always my mindset.
Yeah, I like that.
Get 2 for every 1, and then let the chips fall where they may.
I was the same way with points to turnovers.
Yeah, exactly. It's finding
if
those.
I can get points to every turnover, if 3 or 4 turnovers isn't great, but if I'm putting up 6 to 8 points, then you're like, okay, we'll handle that.
Yeah, that's one of the best games I ever played was against Chapman, and I let in 22 goals.
Yeah, but you had 22 saves or whatever, right?
Oh no, I think I was at 30 some odd saves for that game. It was ridiculous.
Doing your job.
Yeah. And then, but oh no, okay.
All I know is Brendan O'Neill has the ball.
No. You may have to go into play-by-play mode here shortly.
It is. We're about. On my screen, I got 1:10 and ticking. Brennan O'Neill is dancing with the ball at X. Just kind of standing there, doing nothing, looking like a true Worlds MVP.
Right.
Wow. Good stick, good knockdown. Duke has it up top, running around, 79 with the ball. They throw it to X, shot clock expiring. We're going to have about 50 seconds for BU to tie the game here. Got a pull picking it up. Low left if you're standing in the goal. Swings it over through goalie. Now we're backside, clearing it up on the back to the middle with the goalie. Back to the near side, box side here with the long pole. He's going to carry it over. They have onside responsibility. Dumps it to a shorty. We have 30 seconds left. Coach Max is ahead of me. 25 seconds. Timeout, Boston.
Timeout. So, what are we drawing up right now?
Yeah, Boston has that one. I'm blanking on the attackman's name. Is it 23 though? I think. Or
you got
33.
No, you got 2 guys. I think you're drawing this play up for. You got Vince D'Alto and you got Luis Perfetto. Those 2 both need to have options in this play, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. But you also know both of them are getting poles. So who's going to draw that short stick matchup and be able to get open and,
Yeah.
Ow.
100%. Duke doing a quick little highlight of Ben Johnston. He's had a big game, 3 goals. I think more and more performances like that from Duke are going to be what propels them.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's scored a goal in like 11 of his last 12 games now. He's getting in a groove and making a name for himself.
Yeah.
Are you ahead of me? Is the game over? Fuck! Yeah. We'll shout out James Cunningham, my other big redheaded coaching mentor and strength training aficionado. You guys could arguably pass as being related to each other, which you probably are, both being redheads, and
it's
a lot of similarities there.
Small world.
Very small world. Met you guys around the same time in my life. You look very similar. Have a lot of the same ideologies. Wow. Boston, they actually had kind of a look out of that, but they kind of fucked that up.
It'll happen.
They got to look on the crease and kind of got to save there. Good hold, Duke.
Yeah.
Fuck you.
Duke wins 11-10.
Yeah, James's dad played on the Duke club team back in the day.
Very nice.
That's where James's Duke fandom comes from.
Yeah.
So we can accept that. If that's the reason, we'll let it slide. But, look at us, man. We're killing it on these transitions. We've been talking about Duke. You already mentioned the ACC. Let's dive into the Pretty Boy Conference.
Pretty Boys of Lax. Well, if we're going to...
Pretty Boy Flag.
Tugboat says 100 lacrosse balls.
That's James. But you have to say it. 100 lacrosse balls. Your best Gollum voice, and then say 100 lacrosse balls. Oh, there we go.
The process. We need the 100 lacrosse balls. We need it.
Yeah, we need to get you and James in a room together very soon.
Shout out to my buddy Alex Wadman who taught me how to do that, and shout out to my wife who just clipped that moment. Yeah, great.
100%.
Love
100%. As she should.
It's gonna be a short here before we're probably off. I'm pretty sure of it.
You could not be more right.
Starting with the Pretty Boys, I'm gonna cheer you up a little bit. I want to talk about how Will Mark, Billy Dewan, and co. absolutely shut down that Duke offense. I think this game, we had been looking for that signature game from Syracuse. What was this seed? And I think this was it. First ACC, Wednesday night. I think Duke was 3 or 4 at the time. They came into the Dome, and Syracuse, on their defensive coordinator's birthday, decided to give him what I am sure was his best birthday present he had.
You cannot ask for much more than that. And which something you didn't even touch on, like one of our biggest question kind of coming into the game was, what was the X battle going to look like? And Duke dominated at the X.
Oh, absolutely. Jake Naso, I am sorry. I don't know if you had been hurt. I apologize for talking a bunch of shit about you, but I only do it because I believe you have the talent to be better. And you showed it in this game.
You just needed to hear it.
You showed it in this game.
You just needed to hear it. Exactly.
And, Mason Cone was 2 for 7, and Johnny Mullins was 4 for 10 against him. Putting Naso at 65 on the game. And honestly, that's what kept Duke in it for as long as it was. Shout out to both the goalies in this game. Will Mark stood on his head, saving 14 shots, allowing 4 goals, 78% on the day. If they had lost this game and he had played like that, it would not have been his fault. And I don't think it was Patty Jameson's fault that Duke lost, because he still saved 14 balls. He did what he needed to do. Owen Hiltz has the hat trick. Spallina threw 2 assists. And if anyone wants to give Joey Spallina shit for only having 2 points, that's all Brennan O'Neill had, and more than Josh Zawada and Dyson Williams combined. So shove your hatred and take it back with you, because I don't need it.
Well, and the big 3 things we wanted to talk about: face-off X, goalie play, split 50-50, and then the next one was if Spallina goes, Cuse goes, and obviously O'Neill and Duke, and Spallina struggled, but Cuse found the way.
Well, and I think a lot of it is Jake Stevens. I think the 2 Princeton transfers have done a lot to help the maturity of the offense. Sam English, Jake Stevens, both of them have done a very good job of, hey, you guys are young, we're going to let you guys be the superstars.
Yeah.
But should you need it, we're going to drag you with us. Right? Jake Stevens had 3 assists. Sam English didn't score in this game, but on the season, he's got a plethora of points.
Yeah.
He's got 16 points, 13 goals, and 3 assists. Right? On the season, Jake Stevens has 17 points, 9 goals, 8 assists. Like, both of them right around 20 ground balls. They're making plays that may not always show up in the stat sheet, but are helping lead this team where they need to go. And that's 5 games in a row. And hey, now that High Point win looks a little bit better.
Does after they beat North Carolina, absolutely.
Right? You've got wins over Colgate. You've got a 1-goal loss to Maryland, a 1-goal loss to Army, a win against High Point, a win against Hopkins, and a win against Duke now.
It's, when you're looking at resumes, there's not one that looks a lot better than theirs right now.
No, and honestly, there's one game left that if they lose could be considered a bad loss, and that's UNC.
Yeah.
And,
I mean, Notre Dame, Cornell, and they play those games in span of 3 days.
Yeah, you've got Notre Dame.
Days? 31? Yeah, so 3 days. They play 30th, and then on the 2nd, that's a tough, and those two teams are very good. If you drop both of them, maybe that's not great, but if you only lose one, you got to beat North Carolina.
Yeah, if you go 1-1 there, you are solidly, at least in my opinion, solidly in the tournament.
I think you have to be, and realistically, you almost only expect them to go 2-2 in this final stretch.
If they go 3-1, they have a good case for being the number one team in the country.
100%.
Because
100%.
Let's say for sheer fandom's sake of this conversation, they lose to Virginia.
Yeah.
Right, that's their one loss. So now they've beaten Notre Dame, Cornell, and North Carolina, all 3 of those games on the road.
I mean, and all of those within 2 weeks, but then then you tack on the rest of their resume.
Yeah.
It's obviously if that's how that plays out, they have to be 1 or 2 depending on how Virginia's record plays out.
Absolutely. And that's something we're going to get into and right now maybe the time to do it, because we're going to go into talking about the quote unquote hashtag not my number one. And that is Notre Dame.
I was gonna say I was waiting to see where you went to know if we were talking about the Cavs or if we were talking about Notre Dame.
No, we'll talk about
what's he gonna say next.
We'll talk about the real number one here in a minute.
We'll save them for that. Do we want to talk about North Carolina first, real quick? And then we can talk about Notre Dame and UVA.
A 6-3 team with losses to Hopkins, Princeton, and High Point, and they're not ranked.
The only bad one there looks like High Point, and it is North Carolina. You can't say they won't win out, but you can't.
I can, because they're losing to Army this weekend.
Fair enough. I'll give you that. But I still think they have the ability to make a lot of noise. I still think they're maybe a year away from where they're going to be a real contender and stuff, but I think these games will show us a lot about what this team can be in the future. And that's kind of mostly just what I wanted to touch on them. Unfortunately, they're kind of the 5th odd man out, obviously. The other 4 are in the top 10, and they're not ranked.
Hey, they received votes.
As they should have, because, that High Point loss isn't great, but it's also not terrible.
I mean,
High Point seems like every year beats a couple teams when they shouldn't.
High Point's only bad loss this year is to Jacksonville, in my opinion. Their other losses are Georgetown, Syracuse, and Duke.
Yeah.
And, they just haven't played anybody else. They've played a very cupcake schedule. So...
And when you look at their wins too, they're beating teams how they should. I mean, Hampton 27-5, Cleveland State 18-11, Queens 17-8, VMI 19-9. All Mercer 17-6. They're not in teams they should beat. They're beating them, and even these other teams like Georgetown was 14-8, not great. 19-13 against Syracuse. It's only a 6-goal game.
That's not bad.
Numbers.
Yeah,
absolutely. And then you beat North Carolina, which looks great. But yeah, North Carolina, I think I'm very curious to see how they do in this ACC play, to see what they're going to kind of be looking like for next year. They have a young team. These kids can just play well. I think despite a struggling season, they'll have a lot of confidence going into next year. This year's, new defensive coordinator this year, give him a year to get settled. If he needs one. Are we giving Petramala a year? I guess we are. But I think they'll be good I think they'll be a lot better next year.
Well, you saw the same thing. Dave Petramalo's first year in Syracuse wasn't great. Now look at the defense.
They're solid. Right? And that was a big, no one was talking about them coming in.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he's not even there now.
Well, but that's what I'm saying. Like, I give this year's credit not only to John, I'm going to mess this up, but John Ordenia, I think is how you pronounce Syracuse's DC's name right now.
I almost wanted to say there was a Z in there, but I'm wrong.
He gets credit, but also you have to give some credit to Petramala because Ordenia is just building off what Petramala did.
100%.
But I do think UNC is going to be a very dangerous team in the next couple of years.
Yeah.
I don't know, looking at their schedule, how many more wins they get this season, though. Right? You've got Army this weekend, then you're at Virginia, Syracuse comes to town, at Notre Dame, Duke comes to town. That is not the easiest stretch of lacrosse I have ever seen. It's also not, it wouldn't shock me if they get one of these 5 games. Maybe even 2. They've got the talent to do it. I actually saw something. Colin Krieg is top 5 in goals against average. Their defense is top 5. Top 5 in like adjusted efficiency or one of those rankings.
I mean,
and then they're 5-0 when they've allowed less than 10 goals.
I was literally about to say that. Yeah, they've not given up. I mean, multiple games, 5, 8, 9, 9, 4, 8. Like if they hold them, they're winning. If they can get to 10 before the other team, they're in good shape.
Yeah. So I guess that brings us.
We'll talk about Notre Dame now. The number 1 team in the country. They only played 6 games, dude. They play a tiny schedule.
They do. And I believe fate rewards the bold. I have never been a fan of Kevin Corrigan scheduling. I don't know why he likes it. It works for him. That's fine. It's understandable. I don't think this team should be number 1. I don't think they have tested themselves enough. Great, you've got wins against Maryland and Michigan. Cool. You played Ohio State, Georgetown, Marquette, and Cleveland State, and you lost to Georgetown. If you are going to play fewer games, your losses matter more.
Yeah.
Point blank. And
especially if it's not going to be against, Georgetown's, take them as you will, but like, I don't know. You know what I mean? It's not a loss to a top 5 team.
No. And sure, great. It's a top 10 loss right now. But like Virginia's only loss is to Hopkins, and Hopkins is 1 place above Georgetown right now. So how are the voters looking at this and saying that Notre Dame is the better team? Why? Because they won the national. I don't care about last year.
Virginia's played 3 more games too. They're 8-1, and Notre Dame's sitting at 5-1.
And they've beaten all the teams you have. They beat Maryland. They beat Ohio State. They beat Michigan. They've also beat Richmond, who's a top 20 team right now, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
No, they received votes this week.
Okay.
They're not quite. So they're a top 25 team, right? But they've, they've tested themselves. They've been playing. They've played 9 games, and they've lost 1 to the number 8 team in the country.
Yeah.
Tell me how Notre Dame is better than that. It makes no sense to me.
I can't.
I'm having a rave. I'm sorry if it's bugging
I can
you,
tell.
chat.
I'm just kind of going with it. I was vibing.
But
Vibing.
that's it's my thing, and we'll get to see a lot. I mean, we've got Notre Dame, Syracuse, and then Duke, Cornell, UNC, and Virginia. And yes, Notre Dame, feel free to prove me wrong. You win all of these games, you deserve to be number 1. You lose one of these games, because of how many games you play, I believe you should be out of the top 5. Point blank. It's...
I mean, depending on what happens with other teams, with the teams we have, and I mean, you almost want to say it's hard to have a 2-loss team in the top 5, but Syracuse is a 2-loss team, and they feel like arguably the number 1 team right now. You know.
And it matters who your losses are to. I don't see Notre Dame having the possibility outside of North Carolina for a bad loss on this entire schedule. Like Syracuse, Duke, Cornell, Virginia, all good losses. But the fact that you are only playing
10 games?
11 games.
Sorry.
So if you're 9-2 and another team is 11-2, 13-2, I believe that other team should be ahead of you. And that could just be me. That could be the way I look at polls.
I agree too.
But you're not giving me much. You're not giving me much to evaluate you on. You're not giving me much to push on and back up.
Let's look at it even more. Like, not to stoke the fire even more, but like compare the results against Ohio State. They won by 3. Virginia won by 6.
Yeah.
Michigan 18-9. 19-11. Okay, very similar. I think that's the only. Oh no, and then the Maryland 14-9 and what was it 14-10. So very similar like results, and they've played more games. Like how is that not showing that they're the better team?
Yeah. And
oh well.
Yeah. What are you gonna do?
Book of Sugar, if you're in here, I'm sorry.
Yeah. I'm not.
Oh well.
I apologize for nothing.
Okay. You never do.
Nope. It's not true. I apologize way too much. So that kind of leads us in to the Big Ten. Yeah. And I think the first team you got to talk about in the Big Ten is Penn State. They lost to Colgate, and they have not lost since.
Long time ago.
Yep, and they beat Yale. They beat Cornell handily. They whooped up on Cornell pretty good. 20-9. That was that game we were talking about with Cornell. Like, what happened? But now they get to play their Big Ten conference, and they started off with a 3-goal win against Ohio State. But in the next 3 weeks, they got Maryland, Hopkins, and Michigan.
Yeah, next 2 weeks, basically.
That's true.
I mean,
next
the
2
31st
weeks.
or 13th is really, I mean,
that's
going to tell us a lot about this team that's currently ranked 4?
Yeah, 4th in the country.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, if they can make me eat my words from the beginning, I didn't think they were a top 5 team. I didn't know if they were a top 4 team, but right now, the way they've handled it since that opening weekend, obviously, they've looked really good. I mean, Yale, Cornell, Ohio State, Maryland. Yale, Cornell, Ohio State are 3 very good wins. Even that win over Navy is sneaky now because Navy beat Hopkins.
And Navy is 5. Navy's 5-4. The Patriot League is always that Oh, Joey Arndt. Oh, bud, what's up? Go to class. Joe Arndt is is he a junior now? Man, I'm getting old. A junior midfielder at Cedar Crest. Yeah.
Tough.
Solid player. Came back this year after tearing his ACL. So you two have that in common.
My ACL is fine. My cartilage decided to pop off my femur.
Racking up the points. I think he's got 3 points already this year. But thanks for the follow, bud. Also, ironic that we're talking about Penn State since most of that team is a bunch of Penn State fans.
Yeah,
but it is
a bunch of Nittany Lions over there. Huh?
I am actually super excited though for this weekend to watch TJ Malone versus Ajax Zapatello.
Yeah,
and I think that matchup is really going to tell us where this game is going to go. Because if Ajax can control TJ Malone, I don't think Penn State's as dangerous as they are if TJ Malone is being able to operate.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to see that. But, I think the Big Ten is just as competitive in a tier below the ACC, if that makes sense.
I think they have 3 teams that can hang with them.
Yeah, I think there are 4 of the 6 teams that are very, very good.
Yeah,
I think the other teams are a little bit under where that is with Rutgers and Ohio State, and that's coming from somebody who loves the Ohio State defense more than most things.
And calling out Rutgers, I mean, Rutgers is 19th.
Yeah, but they're still Rutgers.
They don't got what's his face. No more Jules.
No, but they do have Ross Scott and Shane Knobloch, who are 2 fantastic. They're the old curmudgeons in the Big Ten.
We love a good old curmudgeon around here.
And in my opinion, they're just out to play spoiler this year. They're looking to upset.
Do it.
Their last 3 games are at Michigan, at Maryland, and versus Penn State.
That's tough.
So I think they're just going in looking at we wanna make sure that those guys remember playing us.
Yeah, absolutely. Leave it all out there.
Yeah,
and they could absolutely play some spoilers. You got Big Ten tournament. You could be making plenty of noise in a month here.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where it's do I see it happening? No. Would I be absolutely shocked? No. Like, that's just kind of where I am with it. But then we've got kind of that next. I'll let you pick, but we got Maryland, Michigan, Hopkins. Who do you want to talk about?
Let's just go down the rankings, I guess. You got
right.
Hopkins at 8.
So right now, after 1 week, you've got Penn State, Hopkins, and Michigan all 1-0 in Big Ten too. We've got Hopkins at 8. They had the fluke loss to Denver. They've lost to Syracuse, and then they had the loss to Navy. So Hopkins
has the most to lose right now.
Yeah, I was going to say, to the committee, they've got the only bad loss right now, and that's that loss to Navy.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like it is more important for them to pick up these other good wins still on their schedules.
Yeah.
They've got Michigan
all 4 of these remaining games.
Yeah, they've got Michigan this week, then they've got Penn State, then Ohio State, then Maryland. And I think, that loss comes down to the butt end stick check karma from Angelus. I think it was Angelus on the wing, wasn't it? Who was it?
I don't know.
No, I think it was Jacob Angelus. Or Jimmy Ayers. Well, I don't remember. But that butt end cup check to Navy cost them that game from karma.
Lacrosse gods got mad.
Yeah, you don't disrespect the game like that, or your opponents, and get away with it. But, I think...
Creator will look down on you.
He will, and...
You just can't get caught.
He will come with a vengeance.
Yeah.
But they've got the making to make a deep run in the Big Ten tournament. Chase Ireland backstopping them. They've got probably the best starting midfield line attack combination offensively in the league. That could be debated, but I'll have that debate with you.
Yeah.
So, they've got the pieces. What can they do with it is kind of my thing. Big Mac, thanks for the follow. Appreciate you checking in. Close on the name. You're 2 for 3 letters correct. We'll fix that other letter. Exit out or something. But then we get to Maryland. And Maryland, for me, has been up and down this year.
Yeah.
And now they, for the first time in what feels like a very long time, they're on a losing streak. They lost to Virginia, then they lost to Michigan, and now on Sunday, they're going to Happy Valley to play Penn State.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like they have to get this one.
Mm-hmm.
A fourth loss, a loss in the Big Ten, another loss in the Big Ten.
Well, it would be another one.
You're starting to walk that edge. You're
getting close. You're
starting to need to, play for your resume type situation now. And I just don't. I haven't been able to get a read on this team very well.
Yeah.
They looked really good against Princeton, and their offense seemingly disappeared a little bit against Notre Dame. And then they'll bounce back, and they looked really good against Syracuse, and then these last 2 weeks they have. And it's just what's going on? Losing your touch, Tillman?
Yeah.
Can't pick on anybody's glove choice to get yourselves wins? I don't know what's going on, but it's something down there, and, they're one of the older teams.
Yeah.
Defensively, anyways, and then even offensively, just looking, you're only going to probably return 1, 2, 3 of your top 10 scorers. Now, granted, it's 3 of your top 3, but, those guys are going to need pieces around them. And is that going to be question marks next year? Right?
Yeah.
Defensively speaking, you're losing Ajax Zapatello. Right? But, you got Stamos, you got Larkin, who are both going to come back. But you're losing both your special. Is this going to be a turning point? Is this going to be a rebuild session for Maryland? Are we about to start talking about Maryland like we do Rutgers? Sure, they could have a possibility to win, but I don't expect them to do anything around Memorial Day.
Yeah, we might be kind of getting into that area. And that was almost what people were kind of looking at them at the start of the year. Yep. As, we really weren't sure what we were going to get. And this year, maybe next year, next 2 or 3 years, this might be kind of what it is. A team that falls more to the middle of the pack, that 8 through 15 range, and not necessarily hard competing for a top 5 spot nationally. Give them a year or two, and I'm sure they'll be back pretty soon enough. It's Maryland, but
yeah, you can recruit off name only.
Exactly, and Tillman is a great coach. He knows what he's doing. We'll see.
Absolutely, and then it's they're not bad. They're just underperforming. And that's what worries me about the Big Ten. None of the teams are bad. They just all seem to be underperforming in a way.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things for me where I have no idea who's going to win the Big Ten. I have no idea how many people from the Big Ten are going to get AQs. And as an Army fan, that scares me.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a tough year to try and figure that out. Like, right now, Penn State definitely seems like the best team, but Maryland and Hop definitely have plenty of skill to beat them. And Michigan's shown they can beat whoever the hell they want.
Yeah, I mean, Michigan...
Especially if they're Maryland in the last 2 years.
Yeah. Maryland should just, go back to the ACC.
They need to stop playing Michigan.
Yeah, just get away from Michigan, because they got your number, homie.
Michigan's M is bigger than the Maryland M. I'm sorry.
It's true.
It's just a more known M. What can you do?
But speaking about Michigan, I mean, they picked up that big win.
Blue.
They're 1-0 in Big Ten play. They had that unsuspecting Big Ten run last year.
And look at their 3 losses this year.
Virginia,
Harvard, Notre Dame.
Yeah.
They have stomped almost everyone else.
I mean, realistically, as they should have. I think their best win outside of Maryland is Delaware, and that win wavers with where Delaware and how Delaware is playing at that moment.
Yep.
So I do think they need to pick up either Hopkins or Penn State to help
They can't lose to Rutgers and Ohio State. They need to win those games that they should, and then pick up one of those other 2 and end 3-1, and they're looking at really good, especially going into Big Ten play.
Yeah, if they go 3-1, you probably at least tie for the Big Ten championship in the regular season.
Yeah.
And
depending on who that one is.
Yeah,
too.
Exactly. And then who is the one lost to, and do they have a loss and all that fun stuff.
The triangles of who beat who, when, and how, and where.
I know. It's always the kicker about who's losing to who and who's beating who, and
at least so far we don't have the triangle that we had last year at the end of the year with Notre Dame, Duke, and UVA.
Yet. We don't have that triangle yet.
We have, but they all have more losses so far, because last year each of them only lost to each other.
But they're losing to the same teams this year. That's the issue.
Notre Dame ain't.
That's true.
Notre Dame and Virginia haven't. They haven't played. None of those 3 have played each other yet.
No, but they've all beaten Maryland, Ohio State, and Michigan pretty much.
True. Yeah, man, the Big Ten will be interesting. Like, I would love to fully believe in Michigan, but it seems like they'll win a game or 2, but they're just not at that next level.
Yeah.
So again, I think they're in a great spot to play spoiler. I mean, even better than Rutgers, obviously. It'll be fun to watch that Big Ten race play out with those top teams.
Yeah. Well, in another race, we kind of now... There are 2 lesser races that I'm keeping an eye on.
Oh, yeah.
And that would be the Patriot League, because it is now anybody's ball game. You've got BU, who just beat Army. You've got Army, who has been seemingly world beaters so far this season until they ran into BU. You've got a Navy team that is very good. We talked about the Lehigh team that's kind of right there. You've got a team like Loyola. So it's just... And then
you have Colgate sitting at 3-0.
Yeah, how can I...
Head of the Patriot League.
Yeah. It is a huge league. So yeah, we don't really need to talk about Bucknell, Lafayette, or Holy Cross. Right? I'm not. Win games, I will talk about you.
Funny how that works.
Right? It also, like, Lehigh, Lafayette are at the same record, but Lehigh's won 2 games in Patriot League. That's the distinction there.
Say Loyola has a worse record than Lafayette.
Yeah. But even that, like, sure, they've got 6 losses. They've got losses to BU, Duke, Colgate, Rutgers, Hopkins, and Maryland.
Yeah.
They've got 6 losses because they decided to play every hard team known to man.
Well, especially the teams that are down the street from them.
Yeah, and then they've got wins over Georgetown, Towson, and Lafayette.
Yeah.
Right? So, you looking at this league, this is anybody's league. Obviously, I've got a bias. Army's winning this, and you can't change my mind. Putting on my actual quote-unquote media member hat because I'm podcasting about it. That BU team is phenomenal. I watched that entire Army BU game. That BU team deserved to win that game. 100%. Yeah. That ride, they run a very, very tight, very good 10-man ride. And if you aren't prepared for that, I think that is the biggest adjustment.
100%.
But, their weakness is, they don't necessarily have the consistency that some of the other teams do.
I mean, the one they lost to Bryant and they kind of got smacked by Navy.
Yeah, right. So there are times where they'll be out of sync is the best way I can put it.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're running a 10-man ride not in sync,
that's dangerous.
You're not running a ride. You're leaving your goal open.
Yeah.
It's what makes great 10-man rides so fun to watch is everyone is in sync. Everyone knows their responsibility and takes that responsibility upon themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And then Army, you're feeling Knox Dent being gone. Their goaltending has not been up to what I would say is a upper echelon All-American level that it was with Knox Dent and Cage.
Mm-hmm.
Colgate, you look at Colgate, they've got losses to Yale and Syracuse, and then a loss at Villanova in a midweek game. But everyone else they've played, they've beat. And they're the only team to beat Penn State right now. You can't count them out, right? Luck is better than skill at some points in time, and they got lucky in that Penn State game, and they need to ride that. So, this league is wide open, right? Colgate's 3-0, Army's 3-1, Boston's 3-1, Navy's 2-1, Lehigh's 2-1. This could go anywhere, and I am so excited to watch it play. I lost what I was going to talk about next. So if do you have anything
you like that?
Yeah, be like that sometimes. Head injury, folks. I was a goalie.
That happens. No, I think nothing else in the Patriot League really. I just kind of wanted to mention that Big East race is interesting. Just kind of between Denver and Georgetown.
I mean, those two teams are going to go back and forth.
Yeah, they play in 2 weeks' time on the 13th in Denver, so big advantage for Denver there. But you look at Denver, they've dropped back to 10th, but almost maybe a little bit unfair to say that. They beat Hopkins, Cornell, and Ohio State. They lost to Yale by 2, and they lost to Duke by 4. I think maybe they're a little bit better than the 10th team in the country. We'll say a little biased. West Coast second farthest West team. Sorry, Utah. But I think that they're still a better team than Georgetown. I think they're a better team. I think they should win the Big East. This is all I want.
Georgetown is making a absolute killing off of beating Notre Dame. That's what it is, right? If that game was never played, I don't see how they're a top 10 team. Whereas
maybe because they beat Penn, but yeah, I mean they lost to Loyola. They got smacked by Loyola to open, and then they lost to Hopkins, which is fine. And then they've gone on a 6-game winning streak.
Yeah, that's.
But again, look at the schedule they've played though. Like outside of Notre Dame and Hopkins, Penn is kind of up there, but otherwise, Brown, High Point, Dartmouth, they beat Richmond handedly. I will give them that actually.
But compare that to, Ohio State, Cornell, Hopkins.
Yeah.
Right? And then losses to Yale and Duke. And honestly,
those losses are both, I think, better than a Hopkins. Either one of those is higher than a Hopkins loss.
I don't know if Yale is better than a Hopkins loss.
They're close.
But also, I will take both of those to the Loyola loss. Absolutely.
Whoa, yeah.
Like, Loyola right now is a bad loss to the committee.
Mm-hmm.
That
to be.
Especially
an 8-goal loss.
Yeah. Like, that was a shellacking.
Mm-hmm. First game of the year, say what you want. You can't lose to a team like that by that much if you want to be in Memorial Day weekend.
No, especially not when the team I am comparing you against went to Johns Hopkins and had the most incredible comeback I've seen in quite some time.
Wasn't that in Denver?
No, that was at Hopkins.
Was it really?
Yeah, they did that on Homewood. They did that to Hopkins to open the season.
They did do that. You do be right about them doing that.
They do that. They be doing that, though.
Yeah, so Big East will be interesting. I don't really like Georgetown. They annoy me. But, yeah.
I just always think there's so much hype behind Georgetown, and they never live up to it.
Exactly.
Like,
it's tiring.
When they got Perk, everyone was like, "Oh, they're a Final Four team." Did they make the tournament that year? Like,
I don't think so. Yeah.
It's something else, that's for sure. But yeah. Do you have anything else you wanted to touch on in terms of kind of looking back?
No, I don't think so.
Before we look ahead, because we've got some games this weekend that I think are going to be a lot of fun.
I think I'm ready.
Starting for me, how Army bounces back traveling to North Carolina.
Well, skipping one on our list because we talked about it.
Yeah, we talked about that throughout our entire first hour.
We did it actually because it says give updates throughout. Unless you just added that.
I didn't. That was there the whole time. We did good.
Doing, Coach? Come on now.
We did good.
We did good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Army needs to.
Yeah. I don't see any way, and honestly, I think this is a bigger test for their defense.
Yeah.
I know UNC's defense has been playing great. I am far more secure in that offensive unit Army puts on the field and the fact that Will Coletti gives them possession 60% of the time.
He's locked it in.
I need AJ Pallett. I need Matt Chess. I need these guys to step up and, prove why you deserve to be a top 10 team.
Mm-hmm.
Prove what is there that is making you better than everyone else. And if they lose to UNC, say la vie, let's win the Patriot League and then let's go prove it to everyone else. But no, I think they need this win to give them another good win for their resume just in case.
I mean, they really only have the Syracuse win.
Yeah. They are riding that Syracuse win pretty heavy. And And other teams are doing the same thing. You know, we talked about Georgetown doing the same thing with that Notre Dame one.
Notre Dame.
So, you know, Army, do me a favor. Don't make me have to talk bad about you.
Whew.
And win this game.
Yeah, and then yeah. About it.
That's it.
You know, I think they should. I think they're the better team than Hopkins or than UNC, kind of like we've touched on. But yeah, they need this win not only like for the committee, but I think even for themselves, because they also like they don't play the craziest schedule either. So giving another win over a team like that will be huge.
Absolutely. And then I think the other big game for them is that Colgate game.
Yeah.
Because I hope Colgate will still be ranked by the time they play.
Well, and of course you have the Navy game, which you just got to be careful to never overlook.
Yeah, but that's just personal.
But don't lose it.
No, can't lose that one.
No.
Moving on, that takes us to UVA traveling up to the greater Boston area to play Harvard.
Yeah, man.
Right, UVA's got all the horses in the world to ride. Can Harvard keep up? I think that's going to be the question. I see this one being more 1st to 15 wins.
Yes. Which, yeah, you know, it'll be interesting because, like, they've lost 2 in a row now. They're on a skid. You know, to Yale they gave up 17, and to Princeton they gave up 14. Right? So if they've been able to score a lot and they have a very good defense, but it's a different matchup compared to when you're playing Vermont, Merrimack, and Bucknell than when you're playing UVA.
Yeah.
And you're going to have to control the ball and slow it down a lot, and you can't let UVA see the ball whenever they want and just let them go crazy because that's what they want to do. They want to play fast and they want to score more than you because they know they can if given the opportunity.
Yeah. And, you know, how does the young offense of Harvard respond to looking to the other side of the field and seeing Schellenberger and Cormier? Well, but I mean, that can...
Sorry, yeah, looking to the other side. Yeah.
That can be intimidating, right?
As can standing next to 6'4", 6'5", 6'7".
Yes, but, you know, it's easier to look at your defenseman and be less intimidated because you're used to seeing that if you're playing.
If you're already that height, yeah. And, you know, battle of a couple star-studded freshmen, too. Let's see. It'll be a fun battle to see which freshman. Sorry, I'm thinking of Princeton. I was thinking of Kabiri at Princeton against McMillan. It would be a fun little showdown.
Oh, but yeah. No,
Kabiri doesn't go to Harvard.
He does
Sorry,
not.
guys.
He's rocking black and gold and some tiger stripes.
Black and orange.
That's what I
meant.
Black
and gold.
Colors are hard too. Words are hard. Colors are hard. Numbers are hard. Podcasting is hard.
This is true. This is very true. Yes.
I think UVA should handle this one by 5. I think if Harvard shows up and plays real hard, it could be a close game.
Yeah.
That's kind of where I am at on it.
Yeah, I agree.
Does the Big Blue continue its unlikely run through Big Ten play as they travel to Homewood to play Johnny Hopkins, who I'm pretty sure I smoked weed with in the back of a car one time? That's a Step Brothers reference for you uneducated folks. We had to watch it every single bus trip at Dominican, along with every other Will Ferrell movie ever created.
Or Goon.
That was when me and Vin were sitting up front.
Yeah, you know, I'm kind of torn. Hopkins win makes that Virginia loss to Hopkins look better. But a Michigan win makes the UVA win over Michigan only look better. Talking from a personal standpoint, I think I want to say Hopkins wins this game. Obviously, Boehm for Michigan needs to have a huge day. But again, Michigan can surprise some people. If they keep it close enough the whole time, they're going to be in every single game as they've showed. Beating Maryland. And if they can keep riding that momentum, I think Michigan can absolutely pull out this win against Hopkins. But I think Hopkins is going to come in hungrier after the last few weeks they've experienced. And I think Hopkins might make a statement in this game. I think we need to be ready for Hopkins to blow Michigan out.
See, and I'm thinking like my
opposite.
No, not at all. I think Hopkins is going to be angry, but I think the matchup, like the biggest matchup to watch, is that defensive midfield unit for Michigan
against the horses for Hopkins.
How well they can lock down Hopkins.
Because you can only pull one of them.
Yeah, but with that being said, they've got Bo Pedersen. And let me do some math here. Again, not my strong suit. But Bo Pedersen is another transfer from Michigan, but he is 6'4", 210 pounds.
Big boy.
That is a big boy, especially when you're looking around at somebody who needs to be able to guard Matt Collison, who is also right in that 6'4", 210-pound range. If you don't have to pull Matt Collison and he doesn't immediately become the biggest dodging threat on the field, that is how teams have had success defending against Johns Hopkins.
Yes.
They can match up with Matt Collison. I think that becomes, if Bo Pedersen can win that matchup and can consistently corral Matt Collison by himself, not letting Collison start the offense, and then their polls can back him up, I think that's how Michigan stays in the game. If that doesn't happen, that's where you get that runaway Hopkins win you were talking about.
Yeah, I think I couldn't have put it better myself.
Moving on from the Big Ten, we head over to the Ivy, where we get Cornell traveling to Philly to play University of Pennsylvania. My big thing for this game was, does Cornell continue their hot streak? Or does Penn somehow miraculously pull out another win I won't be able to explain to anybody?
Yeah, I think that's exactly what we would be looking at in this game. I gotta lean towards Cornell. I think most people are. But Penn's gonna be hungry. They obviously want to keep going. They're 2-0 in Ivy League so far. If they beat Cornell, that's gonna set them up really well for the Ivy League tournament. Being at 3-0, and having then beaten the only other unbeaten team so far in Ivy League play. They're going to be really hungry for this game, but I think Cornell is going to be able to beat them. I don't think this is going to be a runaway game. I think it'll be pretty close the whole time. I think Cornell edges in a close one.
Yeah, I think for me, kind of that, I'm with you. I do believe Cornell's going to come away with this win. I think, in my eyes, they are the class of the Ivy League. But Penn's defense has really been what they've relied on to win games. And so I am very interested to see how this offense does against this Penn defense.
Yeah.
I think you got to look at, obviously CJ Kirst, obviously Michael Long. Those two absolutely start the Cornell offense, and if they go, the rest of the team will go. The bigger thing I want to see is their midfield getting involved more. I want to see more Will Firth. I want to see more Hugh Keller. I want to see more of these guys running out of the box, owning short stick matchups, and making life on CJ Kirst and Michael Long a little bit easier. In their last couple of games, so in their game against Yale, and 18-15 win,
Mm-hmm.
Michael Long had 7 points. CJ Kirst had 8 points. But both of them finished with 4 assists.
Yeah.
That is their way to be successful.
You look at their Kirst especially is predominantly a goal scorer.
Well, and
Long has more assists on the year, but yeah.
That's what I'm saying, though. If both of those guys have as many assists as goals or more, that offense is cooking. If you're looking at stat lines of Kirsten Long having multiple goals over, so their 20-9 loss to Penn State. CJ Kirst 2-1, right? Yeah. Now, Michael Long went 1-3 in that game, but Michael Long had 1 fewer assist than the rest of his team.
Mm-hmm.
That can't be the way they win games.
Mm-mm.
They need CJ Kirst drawing a slide and passing the ball too. So I think that's where this game comes down.
Yeah, and I think I'm also kind of looking at Firth and Goldstein to really step up and draw more attention, or just be in a better spot to capitalize on some of the attention that Long and Kirst are drawing.
Yeah, and I will give William Firth a little bit more time, if that makes sense, because honestly, I'm not quite sure how much field experience he has. It's got to be some, but he is a box first guy.
It has to be some if he's playing at Cornell and has 20 points on the year. But yeah, give him a little bit more time. It's a very different game if you're really not used to playing it, somewhat.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that is where it goes. Okay, yeah. He did play high school lacrosse at the Hill Academy. I wanted to look that up.
Okay.
So he does have.
So he's got some good. Yeah.
He's got some, but he also I guarantee he has not been playing field lacrosse since he was a kid.
No, at least not majority of the time.
Yeah, like he is a box guy first, so he gets a little bit of leeway, being more of just a kind of off-ball crease finisher kind of guy to start. He has to develop, but we'll get there when we get there.
We get there.
Right? So that will bring us to, I'm going to skip one, but Maryland at Penn State. And then we will get to the main event of the weekend.
Yeah, we've been jumping conferences a little bit.
We have.
Maryland, Penn State.
To the Big Ten.
We kind of touched on it already, obviously. Both these teams need to win this game. I think Penn State should. We'll see what's up with Maryland. Tough loss to Michigan and time to bounce back against the Nittany Lions. But like you said, Brandau against Zapatello is going to be the big matchup. Like, what's going to happen there?
By Brandau, you mean TJ Malone viewers.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Sorry, Yale. Yale fans out there.
They're both white and navy blue. They deserve it.
And Brandau and Malone, just like they look similar to me. I feel like they play kind of similar.
I could see it. You're not wrong.
There's a little bit. Sorry. TJ Malone against Zapatello. That's going to be a very, very decisive matchup. I mean, I think it might come down to that, in for lack of a better
absolutely
argument.
Absolutely.
Like you look at their points. TJ Malone has 42 points on the year. Their next closest is at 31. He's 17 and 25. If he can get enough attention to where he can find the open looks, I think they'll do very well. If Zapatello is able to totally shut him down and he can't feed, he can't do anything, I think Penn State's going to struggle.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I think that offense is going to go as TJ Malone goes.
Absolutely.
And that Zapatello matchup is going to be a really fun one to watch.
Yeah.
But that brings us to the main event. And that is the Orange of Syracuse traveling to South Bend to see the Irish of Notre Dame.
Oh, yes.
And dear God, I hope Q's just mollywops them.
I know you do.
I would feel so vindicated about my anger over the fact that Notre Dame is number 1 right now.
Mm-hmm. Totally understandable. I think Liam Entenmann might have something to say about that, though.
As he should.
And Will Mark is going to have a great response to whatever Liam Entenmann throws out there. It's going to be a great battle between the pipes this weekend. It's so exciting.
And you want to know what the coolest thing is?
What would that be, Coach?
It's on the ACC network.
Yeah, baby. No one can watch it. Let's go.
Well, at least it's not ACC Network Plus. We're on the big channel. So
you get it.
If you're going out to your local Buffalo Wild Wings to watch some lacrosse, you should be able to request it.
Yeah. They better have it.
They also have the Harvard UVA game, which is going to be on ESPN Plus.
There we go.
So this is great news for the dude getting surgery on his ankle on Friday, that I'm going to have all of these games that I'm actually allowed to watch.
Yeah, you have nothing better to do but sit on the couch and watch.
Yep. So
yeah,
I know what I'm doing this weekend, but
checked out.
But it should be a good one. And honestly, this Notre Dame Syracuse game is kind of, it's whoever has the better day in my book. It is,
yes.
Is Liam Entenmann or Will Mark making more ridiculous saves than the other? Mm-hmm. Is Kavanaugh or Joey Spallina riding back more than the other one? And it's just, this is that game as a coach where I just want to make my team sit down, watch it, and say, look at how much all the tiny details matter in this game. Yeah. Every ground ball, every turnover is going to be amplified so wide that it's just, I am so excited it's not funny. Like, you got Liam Entenmann at 56% on the year versus Will Mark at 57% on the year. You've got, Will Lynch at 62% and Mason Cohn at 62%.
Yeah.
Chris Kavanaugh has 30 points and he's your leading scorer. Joey Spallina's at 62 points and your leading scorer.
Yeah, but Syracuse has played 4 more games than 5. Are they 9-2?
Yeah.
They played 5 more games than Notre Dame.
Yeah. Like,
that is ridiculous.
So it's just
oh my God.
Like, starting attack, Jake Taylor, Pat Kavanaugh, and Chris Kavanaugh versus Christian Moulet, Joey Spallino, and the Hilts. Toss up. Right? Michael Leo, Jake Stevens, Lucas Roja, Sammy English, Jordan Faison, Eric Dobson. It's an embarrassment.
It goes on and on.
There is no way to split these teams where it's not like, oh, I don't know who has the advantage in this one. I am so excited at 2 p.m. on Saturday to prop my foot up, sit on my couch, lay back, and watch what could be the best lacrosse game of the weekend of the season. I don't know how it's going to go. Maybe slight edge for Notre Dame because that football team is going to show up on a Saturday on the hillside in South Bend, getting rowdy, playing 1 versus 3. I mean, I don't know how else I can hype this up. I'm excited.
I don't think you're doing a good enough job, Coach. Yeah, no, it's going to be great. Unfortunately, I have a game at 11:30, so I'll sneak that UVA game in the morning. But I got to coach my U14 Blue Jays.
You want me to text you updates?
Yeah, probably. I'll just have it on in my pocket the whole time.
Dealing looks at your phone.
100%. Call a timeout, bring them all in. Guys, I called a timeout so we could watch this. Don't worry about this.
Guys, 30 seconds left. Tie game.
Guys. Oh, I will call a timeout if that's happening. I'll use both my timeouts back to back. So right. We get 4
timeout. Whistle into play. Timeout, sir.
Timeout. Yeah. It's going to be exciting. It's an awesome weekend of lacrosse, and we're only getting better and better weekends of lacrosse as everyone gets into tournament league play. We got ACCs going up against each other finally, Big Tens going against each other finally on a consistent week in and week out basis, and there's not a better time to be a college lacrosse fan than right now.
No, absolutely not. And a lacrosse fan in general, because like we started the podcast with, NLL's heating up.
Yes.
Go pick your favorite team. Go make yourself ridiculously fanatical about box lacrosse, because once you get into it, it will wrap you up and drag you down a rabbit hole where you're watching Summer Juniors Canadian box lacrosse on YouTube.
Yeah.
Or Czech semi-pro box lacrosse on YouTube. I have done both of those things.
Which does not interfere with your 3 a.m. Japanese wrestling.
Not at all. Both of those things happen.
There's time in the day for it all.
All about time management, folks.
Yes, coach.
But
yeah, I think that brings us to an end here.
We're wrapping it up.
I think we've maxed out our Laximum banter.
We have definitely maxed out that Laximum banter. The Mythic A Life, Tugboat, Coach Charlie, Big Mac. We cannot thank you enough for the followers. Anyone else who was in here watching us, talking with us. Thanks, guys. We appreciate it. We're just a couple of lax rats. Yeah. Big Joe aren't coming in. I'm sure some other people that just didn't get into the chat. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, we appreciate it, guys.
Yeah. Start interacting. Discord link is in the link here, as well as the link on YouTube. The YouTube link is in our bio. We post all of these up so that you guys can go back and watch all the Laximum banter you want. Listen in. We will drop it in chat right now. Got some cool stuff. We will start posting and showing off sticks and gear and cool stuff
at some point.
You didn't get to see the final product.
There we go. Oh yeah.
But
that's beautiful.
This is how that baby turned out. Pink to black fade, black striker mesh. Just that's
pretty.
MK19 pocket. So pretty sweet.
Looking dialed.
Took it to practice last night.
I'm string king over hero mesh, but we don't have to get into that.
I got my mesh for free, so that's what I'm taking.
Free is always better.
Free is my kind of mesh.
Yes, sir.
I gotta figure out how to get my hands on a piece of armor mesh so I can try it out and give a review on it. But that's the type of stuff we're gonna be getting into.
Yeah.
Maxwell, where can our lovely followers find you should they want to?
Should you ever want to get in contact with me, I still haven't made that, public Instagram, because I'm lazy, and, that's how it goes. But if you want to, get involved with me, mpierce12 on Instagram, send me a follow request. I don't really deny anyone except all those bot accounts. Hopefully I'll have a coaching public profile up soon. Otherwise, reach out to me on here. Hit me up on the Discord. Leave a comment, like, subscribe, all that good stuff that you hear every podcaster beg and plead for at the end of their show.
And that's what it is. It's free.
Hell yeah.
It's free. All you got to do is click a button, and I love you guys for clicking that button. We dropped the YouTube and Insta's in the chat. You can find me at Coach Max Kaler. I post occasionally, trying to be better about it. But until next week, folks, we're going to sign off. Remember, Lax on.
Lax on, ladies and gentlemen. Till next time.